Welcome to the Farmish Kind of Life podcast, where we talk about homesteading stuff and life stuff and everything in between. Join me, Amy Dingman, as we explore big questions on a little farm. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Farmish Kind of Life podcast. I am your fearless host, Amy Dingman. It has been a little over 2 months since I last recorded an episode. Thank you so much for the break. Thank you for coming back after the break. Lots has happened in life. Lots has happened in the world, hasn't it? Oh, my goodness. So over my little break that I took from the podcast, I did a lot of thinking about how exactly to continue this podcast and what it should be. Because I've been doing this podcast since January of 2018. 2018, you guys. That means my podcast has been around for coming up on 8 years. 8 years. Oh my goodness. And it has been through all the shifts and all the morphs. And now I'm in this new stage of life and new stage of being. And the world is in this new stage of the world. And it all kind of requires another shift and another morph of the podcast. And so I was thinking about where this is going, what's going to happen. And what I kept coming back to was how many people have said in emails and messages that they just wish there was a way that they could gather on the front porch for conversation. Like they just miss conversation. They miss where people could talk about the thing, whatever the thing is, or the thought or the story. And it doesn't have to be a certain length. It doesn't have to fit anything. There doesn't have to be a perfect takeaway. It doesn't have to be wrapped up tidy with a nice little bow. Because right now in the world, with the internet, with social media, with everything, with podcasts even, there's so much information out there. There is so much how-to. Like, you want to know how to do anything? There is a million people out there that will explain to you how to do it. YouTube, social media, blogs, websites, all the things, right? People are bursting at the seams with all the how-to, with all the education. We're at this place in history of information overload. And what we're missing and what we're craving and what we're needing is the conversation to go with it, the wisdom and the connection, the space to kind of think out loud, to swap stories, and to remember that we're all trying to figure this out. We're not alone in that, right? We want that conversation, that gathering on the front porch and just talking about stuff. And so I think for at least the foreseeable future, this podcast is going to be what I would be talking to you about if we were sitting on the front porch together. And maybe for some of you, that's what this podcast has always felt like. And I know for some of you it does because, you will tell me in emails or messages, oh, it's just so nice because I feel like we're just, sitting across the table from each other, having a cup of coffee together. And we're just, you're just talking like a normal, regular person. And I just love that. So maybe that's what you guys have always felt like. So maybe it's just a shift that I have had to make in my mind. But the fact that I got to step away for 9 or 10 weeks or whatever it was allowed me the space to figure all that stuff out. So, with that in mind, welcome to the front porch. Welcome to the Farmish front porch, okay? So if I were on the front porch with you right now, there are some things I would tell you about. I would tell you that my oldest son, who is 22, just had surgery on his ear. They went in to repair his eardrum. I think it's a tympanoplasty or something like that. Well, when they went in, they actually found that he had a growth in his middle ear, I believe. It's called what is it called? A cholesteatoma, a cholesteatoma. I can't think of what it's called right now. But it's a growth. It's basically a cyst made of skin and debris and different stuff. It's non-cancerous, but it was in there and it was causing all this havoc in his ear. And so what was going to be not exactly a complicated surgery ended up being a very complicated surgery. And so they think that they got all the cyst out. They rebuilt his eardrum. I mean, isn't that crazy that they can do that now? So it ended up being a much longer day than we planned for it to be, but I'm glad that they found it and they were able to take care of it. And hopefully the entire cyst was removed. He has to go back in a few months and kind of do another look-see kind of surgery to make sure it was all taken care of. But hopefully he is on the path to healing and getting his hearing back. When you're a musician, your hearing is extra, extra important. So hopefully this is going to get taken care of and he will heal up quickly and completely. What else can I tell you? My youngest son, who's 21, just bought a new to him Honda CRV, and I think 4 days after he bought it, the alternator went out. You guys, vehicles suck. The adult world sucks. Isn't that the way it goes? And then I wonder, like, would it just be easier if we went back to horses and buggies? Probably not. Things go wrong with horses and buggies. But man, it just love-hate relationship with the automobiles, I tell you. And if we were on the front porch right now, I would also tell you that I have been thinking about chickens. And not in a, what kind of fancy new breed chicken should I get? More in this new way that's, why do I have this many chickens kind of way? That's what I've been thinking lately. Why do I have this many chickens? Because what I've been thinking about is there's this old school homesteading wisdom that kind of infers, I guess, that you should use what you have, you should keep what you need, and you should not overdo it, right? That's like basic homesteading, I think. And I think a lot of folks believe that and they live that. But then we see everyone on Instagram with 287 chickens and 3 coops and all these chicken tractors and a spreadsheet to like track egg colors and chicken names and all of that. And somewhere along the line, it becomes this like unspoken flex to have 37 chickens or 92 chickens or 116 or 287 chickens, whatever. Or maybe flex isn't the right word. But it's this funny kind of, haha, I don't even know how many chickens I have. Or, chicken math, it's a thing. And we say things like that, right? But I got to thinking, when you have that many chickens, and you don't know how many chickens you have, you got all these chickens running around, who's actually using that many eggs? Right? And unless you've got a really great property for free ranging, it costs actual money, like real dollars and real cents to feed the birds. And I was thinking about this, and I guess what I'm saying here is that, I talk about Ma Ingalls a lot, or like great-great-grandma, whatever, whoever you want to put in that spot. The proverbial Ma Ingalls probably did not have 287 chickens. Do you know why? Because she didn't need 287 chickens. And feeding 287 chickens is totally different from feeding 7 chickens. Now, if you're running an egg business, obviously that's different. Have at it. Have as many chickens as you want. That's a totally different thing. But like I've also said before, if everyone on your little gravel road has a farm stand and they're all selling eggs, it gets really hard to actually sell eggs. I guess what I'm getting at here is self-sufficiency or self-reliance or homesteading or whatever you want to call this, it was never meant to be excessive. And sometimes when I look at the homesteading world, what I see is excess. And that is so weird, isn't it? Like, doesn't that just like go against homesteading? Because in all honesty, most of us are not trying to feed the world or even the neighborhood. I mean, we imagine that we are, right? We say that we are. We're going to feed the community, but most of us are not really. I think most of us just wanted a handful of hens and that simple joy of gathering our breakfast from the nesting box right out back and the feeling that we were more involved in the process of providing food and wanted to imagine that we had some kind of control over what went in our bodies that involved more than just grabbing every single thing we eat from the local grocery store. And I was thinking about all this when I'm looking at my flock, and sometimes I'm looking at my flock going, oh, having all these chickens is great. It's awesome. I love it. And then there's other times I look at them and I think, you know what? I do not need this many chickens. And I think that's okay to say out loud, because maybe there are other people who are sometimes looking at their chickens and also thinking, you know what? I actually don't need all these chickens. And that's okay, because none of this was ever supposed to be excessive. And maybe I've been thinking about this because I feel like homesteading as a cultural thing, which actually is kind of weird to say, right? Homesteading is a cultural thing. I feel like it's going through this morph of I wanted to do all the things, and then I tried all the things, and then I realized all the things don't work for me, and now I'm standing there with all the things, and I'm wondering where I screwed up, or if I'm a total failure, or where do I go from here, or am I supposed to be trying to make all the things work, even though there are parts of simple life and parts of modern life that just do not jive together? I have a friend who recently decided she doesn't want to grind her own wheat anymore. She'd recently got into, got a grain mill, and she was grinding her own flour and doing that whole thing. And she said to me the other day, you know what, sometimes I just want to bake a loaf of bread, and I don't want to have to do all the extra steps of grinding my own wheat. And she said, I am tired of storing all the wheat berries. I am tired of having to do the recipe conversions when I'm using the freshly milled wheat, because using freshly milled wheat is a completely different thing than using like the flour you would buy from the store. Totally different thing. She's like, I'm just tired of it. I want to go back to using flour I buy from the store. And you know what? That's okay. I have another friend who recently got rid of all of her ducks. And because she got rid of all of her ducks, that means she has no homestead animals anymore. And she had lots of reasons for wanting to no longer have them. All of them were totally valid. All of them coming from her taking an honest look at where her life is right now and where it's heading, and admitting that homestead animals just don't fit anymore. And I've been hearing this, I don't want to say all the time, but I would say more than I used to. People coming to these realizations of, you know what, I used to do all this, and I'm realizing, this and that of that list doesn't fit anymore, and so I'm not going to do it. But there's this guilt and there's this feeling of failure that you have to get over, because you feel like you were supposed to be able to do all those things, and they were all supposed to fit in your life and work in your life. And I was thinking about this, and I here's what I wonder. I sometimes wonder if our great-great-grandparents, or whoever you want to put in that place, I wonder if our great-great-grandparents would look at us trying to do all the things the simple, quaint, old-fashioned way, and I wonder if they would call us stupid. Like, would they say, why would you even think to do it the old way? We were trying to get to a place where we didn't have to do it the old way anymore. Why are you grinding your wheat when you don't have to? What are you trying to prove? Why do you have so many animals? Would they look at us and say, why are you freaking out so much about growing and raising all your own food to make it safe, when at the same time you're coloring your hair with chemicals, or you're sipping coffee that has been shipped thousands of miles just to land in your mug every morning, or you're filling your house with gadgets and plastics and all this other stuff that doesn't look anything like simple living? It's almost like we're living with some kind of like weird selective authenticity, And I wonder if would our great-great-grandparents tell us to just calm down a little bit? Just calm down. Just take it down a notch. Because part of me thinks that maybe they would. Maybe they would. These are just some of these front porch thoughts that I've been having lately, and I don't have a tidy bow to wrap up my thoughts. That's not how front porch conversations work. If we're sitting on the front porch, we're going to husk the gem corn that I just picked, and we're going to play with the barn cats that wander up to the house, and there's going to be pauses, and there's going to be thoughts, and there's sometimes just going to be quiet as we process what's just been said. And I think sometimes we miss that. So right now, if we were on the front porch, I would probably ask you if you want more coffee and if you're ready for that piece of apple crisp, and you would probably say yes to both. And then maybe we'd sip that coffee and we would eat that piece of apple crisp, and we would look out over the yard, and maybe we'd think about what we have and what we need and what actually matters right now, today. Thanks, you guys, for joining me here on the front porch. I hope you will stop by again. Talk to you soon. Hope you enjoyed the show today. To continue the conversation, visit our website at afarmishkindoflife.com, find A Farmish Kind of Life on social media, or drop me an email at amy@afarmishkindoflife.com. Peace, love, and bacon, y'all. Stay farmish.